What's up, everybody? It's nice to see you there. My name is Scott. I'm a medium and a psychic. And today is all about you and your connection to the other side. What does that mean? Now, for most of us, having a connection to the other side might just mean being hopeful that there is something on the other side. You might be looking for answers to connections to the other side. You might just have a religious belief that there is something on the other side. And that is a wonderful experience to have as a human being. Now, what we're going to talk about in today's video is all my opinion. It doesn't mean that I'm right or wrong. Your opinion and your belief doesn't have to change. Your truth certainly doesn't have to change with what I'm about to present to you. But today, I'd just like you to have an open mind and think about your experience so far in life and how you feel when I talk about spirit communication and I present it to you in a way, hopefully, that makes sense to you and is very down to earth and tangible and something that you can just say, I get it. I kind of get what you're saying, Scott, because that's the most important thing to me. Because years ago, if somebody had come up to me and said, ghosts are real and people can absolutely talk to them, I probably would have been very skeptical and really not listened that well to the person speaking. So if you're here and you're making it this far, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button here, because this is just an opening or an introduction to so much more and so many other things that I want to bring to you in a very down to earth and very grounded type of way, a way that anybody and everybody can understand the ins and outs of spirit communication in very basic ways. So if that's something you're interested in, let's get into today's video, the basics of spirit communication and what it means to you and what it means to me. This part's always kind of a surprise to people. I didn't go searching for the paranormal. I didn't go looking for ghosts. I didn't try to be a medium. It just kind of happened upon me. And there's a video available. Maybe I'll be able to link it up in a card here. And it just basically talks to you about how I one day had spirit come talk to me. I was taking a shower and all of a sudden I got all kinds of information I didn't know what to do with, but something inside, in my heart, in my belly, in my gut connected with me, and I just wrote that information down and I took it to the person who I thought it was for and hope that they would be receptive with the information. So let's just talk about the very basic of that experience and how it might relate to you and the basics in your life and your experience and how to understand what that is and to trust your instinct. The first part of this is pretty simple. Trusting yourself. This is a big thing that I think a lot of you take for granted. You don't trust yourself in your intuition, in the information that you're getting, and that it's authentic and real. But let me ask you a question. Have you ever tested it? And if you have tested it, down in the comments, tell me how you test it. How do you test your abilities? And I'm going to tell you a super basic way, and I've already said it, how to test your abilities and how to trust yourself, okay? So this is about confidence building for anybody out there. So, and by the way, you don't have to be a medium or a psychic or a paranormal investigator or any of those things. This is a very basic for just your experience as a human being, just as your experience as a person day to day in life. Whether you are a stay-at-home parent, a grandma or grandpa, a person who has a job and is just out in the world and has these kind of experiences that you can't explain. This is the best way, in my opinion, to be able to connect with that information on the other side. And it's very basic. Let me show you. Probably at home, you have one of these. It's a notebook. This one is a primary journal. I had run out of ones and I still like regular adult ones and I needed to do readings. So I borrowed one of these from the children. Don't tell anyone. But I needed something to write in. So this started the very first time that I ever got information, seemingly, from the great beyond. I was taking a shower of all things after work, and my brain was clear, and I was having a nice warm shower, and it was wonderful. And I had all this information flood into me, and something inside of me said, you should write this stuff down. And there was the first inkling in my life where I had gone above and beyond just having a strange experience and having some information that didn't belong to me necessarily, but I knew somewhere that I should pay attention to it, but I was never going to remember it. Because if you're like me, you might have a little bit of squirrel brain. Insert clip of squirrel here. Okay, so I have squirrel brain. I forget things very easily, especially if they're not that interesting to me. So what I did was I hopped out of the shower, I grabbed a notebook, which I still have the original one somewhere, and I wrote this information down. And then I was able to bring it to the person who the information was for. Now, was this technically a reading? I want to say it was. It was the first reading I ever did. And the reason it was so special is because, one, I wasn't trying to develop any mediumship skills. It wasn't even on my radar, so to speak. It wasn't something I was out to do or taking courses or any of that. I was just living my life when this thing happened. It was spontaneous and it was special. So I took the information and I brought it to this woman and I said, hey, I have some things here in this notebook. I would love to see if you understand any of them. And I opened up my notebook and I showed her the stuff and she said, you're talking to my dad. That was my dad. This is information you couldn't know. And the difference between me showing up and having some of the information and trying to recall it, and the difference between that and saying like, here it is, was it was in black and white. I had written it down already. I came and presented it to this person. And so for you, your first exercise, if you're interested in understanding any of your own abilities, your first thing that you should want to do is when you hear Marianne is going to call you, if you get that inkling or that feeling or that you see her in your mind's eye and you're like, why am I thinking? I haven't thought of this person in 10 years. Why do I see this? Write it down. Maybe put a date on there for your own being, for your own use, right? So that way, when you're like sitting at home and all of a sudden you get a phone call and it's Marianne and she's like, hey, we're going to have our 10-year high school reunion. You coming? And you can say to her, I knew you were going to call. I knew it. And you could say to anybody else in your family or your loved ones or your friend group and say, I knew she was going to call me. I didn't know why, but I knew that she was going to call me. And I wrote it down in my little journal that I have. And you'll show them and say, like, look, I wrote this 4 days ago. I knew it. I knew she was going to call me. And that's the basis of the start of spirit communication and listening to your intuition. That doesn't sound scary, right? And that's where I want to bring this next part up. And I think this is a very important one for all of us, okay? Hopefully in this part I'm going to overlay something that looks cool and it'll get your attention. So spirit communication often looks like on television something scary and graphic and it's horrible and everybody's heads are falling off and there's gore and blood and guts and it's them haunting you and they're in your dreams and they're under your bed and they're grabbing at you. And I gotta be honest with you, it's really 99.9% of the time it's just not like that. It's more like a handshake between you and the other side and you're like, it's nice to meet you. What can I help you with? And it's an inkling that if you get it and you pull on the string a little bit, it's beautiful and it's full of love and the messages are amazing. And so when you think about spirit communication, don't think about the scariest, most haunted house you've ever been in. Think about the most beautiful, charming place you've ever been in that was so comfortable that you could sit down on a couch with somebody that you've never met before and have an in-depth conversation with that person and get to know them. Because that's what mediumship is. That's what that spirit communication looks like. Whether we're talking about spirit, this is how I say it, spirits, right here. Spirits are those who have crossed over, and ghosts are the ones that are more earthbound. Neither one of them are usually scary. They may have unfinished business, there may be some unpleasantries that they need to pass along, but that really has nothing to do with you as the person who's getting the message. It's just your job or your ability to listen, see, feel, and understand the things that they are giving to you and for you to pass along. I tell people all the time when we teach classes, it's the message isn't for you and I, it's for the spirit to get something across, and for the person who is sitting with you that's living, for them to get the message and for them to interpret and to understand. It's not for us. And that's going to bring us to the next part of this, which is really nice. It's going to take a second, so I hope you're ready. And remember, you can always go back and watch this video, and we'll go more into depth of all this stuff, and eventually it'll get a little bit more woo-woo, so to speak. But for now, it's just very grounded and down to earth, and I really want you to understand the things that I'm talking about. So we're keeping it down to earth. And this next part, there ain't no more down to earth than what I'm about to talk about right now. So the basics of spirit communication as us, as the tool, the medium, if you will, is guess what you have to know first before any of this other stuff really happens. You have to know yourself. You have to know who you are inside. And by the way, you don't have to be a holier than thou person. You don't have to be love and light. You don't have to be the kindest, most beautiful soul on earth, because to be honest with you, we're all full of flaws. But those flaws, as well as the good things that make us, are the things that make us actually very good mediums. Because if you've messed up in life and you've made mistakes, then guess what? When my spirit comes through to you from the other side and I tell you about my woes and the things that I've done, you're going to be able to grasp onto that and understand it and say, oh boy, I remember when I did something very similar to that and I felt bad about it. And then you can relay that information. And then all of the good stuff happens the same way as well. I remember my first hug with my first true love. I remember holding my son for the first time. I remember getting the job I wanted, and all of those great things that we experience in life. So getting to know yourself is really important. Take stock of who you are as a person. What got you to this point? How did you end up right here watching Scott talk to you about spirit communication? What happened all the way up to this point that got you here, right? I hope a lot of good things, but I also hope that you had some mistakes along the way that you've corrected since then, and you're doing better now, and life is presenting itself in a way that is helping you understand who you are and that you're very valuable and worthwhile in life. And now maybe you have another journey, a new path ahead of you, and maybe it's spirit communication. And I'm telling you right now, before you take a walk off of this starting line, you can say to yourself, who am I today? And you do it every day. I do it every day. I when I wake up, I say, okay, who am I today? I take a deep breath real quick, and I just be like, okay, physically I feel, I get a little pain in my back and my neck. Everything else feels good, no colds, I'm good. How do I feel emotionally? I'm very tired and emotionally drained from work yesterday, so that's a part of me. Mentally, everything is good. And then why do we do this? So that way during the day, when you are having interactions with people, or not, sometimes these things just spontaneously happen at home or wherever, and it's good to know and recognize what was your feeling at the beginning of the day and how do you feel now, right? So taking stock of who you are as a person as a whole is important. And then every day just say, this morning I woke up and I was in a really good mood. Now I've ended up here and I feel kind of grumpy and angry. What could be causing that? And pull that string and see when you close your eyes and take a deep breath. Oh boy, I feel like I want to talk about somebody named Angela. Why? What does she have to say to me? And is she a part of here? Does she belong to somebody in this room? Now, you don't have to be me. You don't have to go tap somebody on the shoulder and be like, do you have a sister Angela who passed away? Because I rarely do that as well, just so we're clear. I'm not the Long Island medium, and I don't think that is a great way to go about what we do. But if the message is urgent enough, then we can do that. But you have to know yourself. And this is where having confidence is important, because if you have been taking notes for a couple weeks, maybe you wrote the name Angela down in your notebook a couple days ago, and now all of a sudden you're out at a party and it's hitting you again. And you remember, oh, I wrote Angela and gold locket necklace and red shoes. and you see somebody standing across from you with red shoes and a gold locket necklace, and you say, I wonder if I say the name Angela to her, if this is going to make any sense. And you walk up to them and have a polite conversation and break the ice a little bit and say it. And all of a sudden she tells you, I have been waiting to hear from my mom, Angela, for the longest time. And that's all it took. It didn't have to be a grand slam reading with all of the details and the amazing things. It was just to know that a complete stranger or a friend of a friend or a friend just said, hey, I don't know what this means, but Angela has been on my mind lately. And now you've connected that person to their loved one who they have been thinking about and missing forever. And you have provided an invaluable service of comfort and love to that person that you're standing with or sitting with. Okay? So when it comes to all of the spirit communication, I want you to think about those little details and those things. So I'm going to give you a piece of homework, and I want you to work on it before we get to the next video, which we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about understanding your psychic flashcards. So here's your homework. Your homework is so easy. I know you didn't come here looking for homework, and I'm not usually like a teacher per se, but I do like giving out homework because if you're a teacher, you have it coming. Everybody else, sorry, this is what we got to do. I want you to get a notebook. It doesn't have to be anything special. Just a regular lined notebook, something that will stay together so you don't have loose leaf paper flying everywhere. Put a little pen with it. So you have a little pen, you put it with your notebook, and keep it with you. It doesn't have to be this big if you don't want to carry that around. But in the morning time, when you wake up, your mind is the most clear. So when you wake up in the morning time, write down anything that's in your head. It doesn't matter what it is. You could be talking about absolute nonsense as far as you're concerned. But I bet you that nonsense, as you start to pay attention and let yourself know that you should be paying attention, is going to turn into information that is a link spiritually or psychically to people that you're going to encounter in your life. And this is going to help you build up your confidence and understand that spirit communication is a very real thing, and it's not at all scary. One of these days we'll talk about when it can be scary, but for right now, I just want to let you know that as you open up and you start to develop these skills, nothing dark, nothing creepy, nothing scary is coming out of the shadows unless you ask it to. And in that case, you're on your own. But for now, just know, when you open up and you're saying, I just want to connect to those people who are looking to pass messages, I just want to open up to myself so that I understand the messages that I am going to pass for other people. That's wonderful. And like I said in the beginning of the video, you don't have to be a medium or a psychic to do these things. It's a part of our human ability. It's just our intuition that's connected to everything. It's like an internet, and we all have Wi-Fi, and we're all a part of it, okay? And that's the very basic way. It's not too woo-woo. And again, this can be very helpful for you just if you don't want to be a medium or a psychic, or you're not a paranormal investigator, and this is just you living your life, and you just took a note, and you're like, Scott said I should take notes. I wonder how cool it would be if I could come up with some of this information. And you write down Angela, and a couple days later you're talking to a woman, and she mentions her sister Angela who passed away, and you could just keep a note in your head and say, I wrote that name down. I don't know why I thought of it, but I had it in my head and I wrote it down, and I can prove it to myself because it's right here in my notebook. So that's just the basics of it, okay? Now, if you have questions that you would like me to answer, because I read your comments, I read them and I try to reply to all of them. So if you have questions about mediumship, psychic development, you're tired of being gatekept, you don't have a ton of time or money to, so to speak, or at all, for expensive psychic and mediumship development courses, I don't do any gatekeeping here. And no shade to those who make a living off of doing courses and that stuff. You're probably fantastic teachers, and you should be rewarded for your time. 100%. It's the reason why I charge for mediumship. I'm good at it, and I deserve to have compensation on the other side of it, okay? But as far as this goes, I just am trying to open it up to a broader audience so that more people can be connected, and more so that when you see me connecting, you know there's nothing up my sleeves. There's no trick. There's no behind the scenes person typing away and talking in my ear. It's just not who I am. This is all very authentic and very, very important to me and very dear to my heart. And the way that you're going to learn how to trust yourself is also going to, when you tune in and watch me with my friends doing paranormal investigations or telling stories about this stuff, you're going to trust that I'm telling you the truth because you're going to see it for yourself. Okay? So if you haven't yet, do me a favor, hit the like and subscribe button here. Maybe share this with a friend or two that's like-minded and have them come over and hang out with us, okay? In the meantime, I am so delighted to be here. Thank you so much for all of your time. I really do hope that you enjoy this video, and we're going to have many more just like this, and they're just going to keep coming. So make sure that after you're done watching this video, go watching my paranormal stuff so that you can see when I'm talking about things, how when I say something, I'm just as surprised as you when it's accurate. But I've learned how to trust myself, but I'm still surprised. And being surprised is part of the fun of this, to be quite honest with you. All right, everybody. Thank you again for being here. I'm Scotty the Medium. I love you so much. I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope that you go out and treat everybody with kindness and love. And most importantly, as we love saying on my channel, peace and